I came to these lands to escape my past, to start a new life. I can hide no longer. I do not want this war. We have suffered enough. Prophecy did not lead us here, nor will it win this battle. Wars are won by those that are willing to sacrifice everything. If that is the cost of vengeance, so be it.
Hello there, and welcome to episode 29 of the video game podcast PlayStation Pals. I'm your host, Nick, and I'm joined by the BD1 to Michael Kestis. John, I'm going to put you on the spot. First thing, this is our end-of-year wrap-up episode for 2022. What was the best episode of this podcast for 2022?
The best episode?
Yeah, what do you think is the best?
I have a really shit memory with this stuff, man. But the things that stick out to me are our Red Alert, the DEF CON levels.
Okay.
Going through the DEF CON levels, being very confident that there was going to be a showcase with absolutely nothing coming from that. So that stands out. I know that doesn't probably qualify as the best episode. I think I tend to think of more of the big moments, that kind of stick out. Obviously our God of War discussions is a big part of the year. But yeah, I don't know if I can name one episode. Why don't you enlighten me? Because I feel like you probably had something canned and ready to go.
I do. Yeah, we did have a lot of good segments. The DEF CON level,
PlayStation Pals,
Franchise Madness.
Yeah.
The Wheel.
Yes.
Becoming a thing.
Yes.
A lot of good stuff. My favorite episode is the one we did right after the Game Awards.
Yeah. Where we were both at home.
Yeah, we were both at home, and it was a fun show, and we had really good takes. Like when you see all the articles the next day, and we're like, oh yeah, we talked about that. Oh, we mentioned that.
It's weird though, like when there's video game news, it makes it more fun to talk about.
That's surprising.
That's probably a good call. I would agree with that one. But yeah, it's funny. It's like we've almost started some lore within the show. It's like the Wheel and DEF CONs, and yeah, it's cool, man. It continues to be a pretty solid endeavor we're going on here.
In fact, we can talk about this next week, is like the DEF CON level again as we lead to PlayStation
probably.
VR. When is there going to be another Sony showcase?
And just first party talk, man. Lots to discuss still.
So before we get into our 2022 wrap up, I quickly wanted to mention that the January PlayStation Plus Extra or Essential games have been announced. Those 3 titles we get at the beginning of every month. For January, it is going to be Jedi Fallen Order, Axiom Verge 2, and Fallout 76. I can only speak on Jedi Fallen Order. Great game, great time to play it. Mm-hmm. Sequel's coming in March. Mm-hmm. I love that game. I platinumed that game. It's good to have a nice, good Star Wars game, good third-person action game.
Did you ever play Axiom Verge 1?
No. I was going to ask you about Axiom Verge 2.
Yeah, I want to check it out. Axiom Verge 1 is probably, no joke, one of my favorite Metroidvanias I've probably ever played. There was something about the vibe of that game, great soundtrack, aesthetics, and everything like that. Problem I've heard with the second one is that while the first one is, as you would expect, projectile gun focused, this is more melee focused, and it has more of an open way to explore the map, which leads to a lot of people getting lost and confused where they need to go next. So,
yeah, that sounds good.
Because it's one of those games that's designed, created top to bottom by one guy. Mm-hmm. So those are often, I like those things a lot because it really shows somebody has a specific vision for something. But, if some ideas fall flat or some ideas aren't completely fleshed out, you can really feel it. So I'll check it out. I'm not as stoked for it as I was when I first heard the announcement of it, but something to at least check out. But Fallout 76 can, go away because nobody's got time for that.
Yeah. So again, those will be available on Tuesday, which is January 3rd.
Hey.
So, all right. But again, before we move into our 2022 wrap up, we have to wrap up the PlayStation Pals franchise madness. John, take it away.
Well, as we figured out last week, Naughty Dog just is permanently in second place, I guess, because they had two big IPs die in the semifinals. But we have a couple pairs of titans, man, going at each other. Obviously with God of War and Spider-Man. So I don't know if you just want to kind of get your initial thoughts out there, Nick. I don't know how you want to tackle this. I mean,
it is funny. They did go head to head in 2018.
Yeah,
they both released that year. And God of War beat Spider-Man. I don't think there's a site that gave Spider-Man Game of the Year over God of War.
No, that entire year was just God of War and Red Dead.
Yeah. So, but before I even wanted to get into this, I know you saw this question before, but is it cheating that Spider-Man's considered a Sony franchise? Because technically it's not.
Yeah. So.
I know I'm asking this question now after it's had so many matchups.
God of War wins by disqualification. So when I was making this list, it was one that I was hesitant to put on because it did, like you said, it's so new. It's technically Spider-Man's owned by Sony, but it's just this weird gray area. And also we still only have 2 games in the franchise. That's also a big thing as well, is that can you really call it a franchise when we've had 1.5 games made? Because Miles Morales, while great, is still short. But I think it does qualify because it is a game that is currently being developed by one of Sony's first-party teams.
Right.
It's one of the best-selling Sony games ever.
Right.
It's a fantastic game, and it's a series that we know for sure Sony will be carrying this franchise as far as they possibly can.
Oh yeah, this isn't going anywhere.
No. So while it is almost a little cheap because it's just hey, here's Spider-Man. Of course, it's just such a powerful, notable figure.
Yeah, in pop culture in general, not just in Sony's first party stable.
So I stand behind putting it in here. Again, and just also full disclosure, when you fill out 32 of these things, you start to get a little thin. So, but that was also the other side of it too, is what to rank it. I was thinking about ranking it at 2 for some of those reasons, but it just felt like it's just too strong. It's just too strong. As we see, it's too strong.
Yeah, it's here at the end.
Yeah.
Okay. So where do you feel on this one? Because me personally, I'm definitely more excited for Spider-Man 2 a year ago. Spider-Man 2 I was more excited for than God of War Ragnarok.
Okay.
And I still think that holds true. Spider-Man 2 is next year, our next podcast and next year, when we talk about our 2023, there's going to be Spider-Man 2 is going to be the new God of War. It is going to appear in a lot of podcasts because we're going to kind of want to keep talking about it. So
yeah, and obviously, when we're talking about this final matchup, we got to analyze this from pretty much every single angle. And so, when you're talking about, past prowess as an IP, present prowess as an IP, and future prowess as an IP, Spider-Man might have a little edge on the future side of things. Mm-hmm. But I think you need to kind of take all of that into the equation. And so my gut for this is God of War is the superior franchise. And that's kind of how I'm looking at it. It's a more storied franchise. Yes, their Spider-Man games go back forever, but when it comes to Sony being in charge of it, it's got a more storied history. I think God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok are better than Spider-Man or Miles Morales. And I think just the characters themselves are stronger. Yeah, Spider-Man is iconic. He's great. But what you can do with what they did with Kratos and Atreus is so much more impactful than anything I could possibly imagine Spider-Man ever reaching. And some bias of me in my comic book disdain might bleed into this a little bit. But I just when I look for the complete package, to feel things, to have fun while I'm playing it, graphically amazing, voice acting, music, every single thing that God of War does it beautifully, with rare exception of like maybe the fast travel system could be a little bit better, maybe some of the RPG mechanics could be a little bit better. But when you talk about a complete package of a series as a franchise, I don't know how it couldn't be that.
Yeah, I'm curious as to like a year from now how we would feel as Spider-Man 2 is in our rearview mirror.
Yeah.
Whether or not to say that game could be bad, like we may feel the same, but it will be interesting with Spider-Man 2 being PS5 only, and what Insomniac brings to that game that we haven't seen a single ounce of any type of footage.
Yeah.
But
well, and I think that might. I just thought of something, is that God of War gets a special leg up because it's had the amount of time to reinvent itself. The only reason that God of War is as far as it is because of 2018 and God of War Ragnarok. If those two games didn't exist, God of War would have got knocked out in the second round probably.
right.
But because it had the time to reinvent itself, it really was able to push past where you would expect it to land and get to the top tier. Spider-Man, I mean, I hope Insomniac can pull out some crazy punches and really get us to, kind of not realize what we wanted with a Spider-Man game. I don't, besides adding co-op in, I cannot visualize Spider-Man 2 being anything better, or not better, but more than just maybe the map's a little bit bigger, it's a little denser, maybe you can go into buildings, maybe you can have extra web mechanics and things like that, but
right.
God of War has all that good fun stuff, but the narrative on top of that is what pushes it. It's like it's got Last of Us narrative with Spider-Man gameplay. It's kind of like,
You're right. Spider-Man is derivative. It's even when Sony was not making these games, this is very much like the older Spider-Man games, and one could say that the combat is taken right from the other superhero game, the Arkham series, Batman. It uses all the same counter mechanics and kind of the way your kind of character magneticizes himself between all the enemies. So there is that to it too. And yeah, as you said, I think the reason Spider-Man 2 will be co-op is because that is really the only innovation that they can really bring to the table is having more than one playable character and being able to play with your friends. I mean, that'll be a huge selling point. If it was just Spider-Man 2, you're still in New York.
Yeah.
Guess we don't know where the location.
Well, and so I was actually just going to bring that up. Is like you could go to. I don't think you can take Spider-Man away from New York. I think you have to be there. So you could do the boroughs, right? You could do Queens, Bronx, whatever. Problem with that is it's not vertical.
Right.
Every single one of those places besides Manhattan is not a playground for Spider-Man.
Right. We saw that in Spider-Man Homecoming.
Exactly. So, sure, it'd be you go to Chicago or I mean, he goes to Europe and Far From Home. There could be sections of that, or if Miles and Peter are both playable characters, maybe Miles has to go somewhere, and then you get, and that's how you get this new map that maybe we didn't know of, and that, if that was a thing, it'd be like the biggest, mind-blowing moment possible, but yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah, well, let's not try and focus too much on the game that we know nothing about, so
sure.
That really doesn't have it doesn't take much of an effect on what we're arguing here, so.
One thing that is interesting for me specifically is like, I do think like 10 or 15 years from now, looking back at Spider-Man, I'm going to get real teary-eyed because of just how special that game is with me and my son.
True.
So like, that is also something that just, pulls on me in a different way.
But also God of War because it's a father and son story.
And it's like maybe my favorite game ever. So, one of the best series ever. So yeah, it's very, you could tackle this from any angle, and I don't think there's a wrong answer.
No.
It's
the final two games. Like they're both winners. It's not like we're trashing on the other one because the other one beats it.
So I want to know, Nick, and I need you to tell me with truth. Hey, you got new shoes. With truth, if you were to write your answer on a ballot and slide it across to me, what would it say? For what one you want to win?
As much as I really love Spider-Man, I kind of want God of War to win.
Yeah.
I think it is the face of Sony's franchises right now. And as it cleaned up, it didn't win Game of the Year, but it cleaned up at the Game Awards again for everything else. Yeah. Music, story, just everything. So I just I think it is the face of Sony's current.
I think it is too. I think we got there. Yeah. All right. Are we locking it in?
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna argue with me, are you?
No. To present an argument for Spider-Man to overtake it, I don't think I could. So.
And I'm sure nobody's surprised.
No, and that's like kind of the bummer of it all. It's like I feel like from week one you can be like, yeah, it's gonna be God of War.
You're
like,
right.
Oh, the new game's coming out. They love it. Of course it is. So.
Yeah, the timing also is
right. So trying to detach ourselves from that, but I gotta admit too, even if Ragnarok came out next year, I would have fought for God of War probably just as hard. Like, because 2018 was a special thing.
And even just foreshadowing, I'm sure God of War is going to come up a lot in this episode as we talk about our best of 2022.
Not from me.
All right, so there we have it. God of War franchise is the winner. Congrats, Sony Santa Monica. What a great franchise for a decade plus.
Mm-hmm.
So
big question is, where does it go from here? I mean, that's when something we don't know. This could be a franchise we don't see again for 7-8 years. I don't know.
Yeah, that's very true.
I don't know if that would be wise because especially with Sony having this multi-tiered media thing where they got their TV shows and all that stuff.
It'll be back in some form as we maybe that Atreus sequel we're hoping for.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's move on. We can finally get into the 2022 wrap-up. Before we get into ours, though, we did get a few submissions from listeners.
Yay!
The first one I want to bring up is nemesis of the show, Jake. He is, when we mentioned the trophy wars, it is all because of him and because of this one stat. He got 22 platinum trophies in 2022. 22.
But the funniest part about it, Nick, how many total did he have before he got any of those?
I think it was 4 or 5.
Yeah, it was like 3 or 4. So basically, Jake found out, he knew that Nick and I, love games the way we do, but he made it a personal mission to get into second place, because I have a sizable lead on Nick, or I did. Still do.
Yeah.
But he made it a mission to pass Nick. I think he's one up on you right now.
Yeah, he is. He is one.
So it's like he really stalled once he got above you. He was like, all right, I'm good.
Yeah.
I think he's got his sights on me next. So hopefully.
Yeah, next year it'll be you.
Yeah, we'll see.
You can't compete with 22 a year.
I've gotten 11 this year. So yeah, I'm half. But I think I'm up. I think I got 12 or 13 on him now. So we'll see.
All right, and then pal of the show, Mark. John's boy, and as we learn now, he shared his stats. There's some interesting ones in there. He had 862 hours played. That is impressive.
Well done, Mark.
That beats me, as we'll get into.
Okay.
Well, this top game, this is why he's with John, is Elden Ring at 184 hours.
It's funny, Mark, when you first wrote in, and you mentioned that John has superior taste. I joked with Nick. I was like, I wonder what that's about. It's either because he likes Souls games and he knows I do too, or because he thinks you're an idiot for playing Saints Row. It was like one of the two. So, and as I'm sure Nick's about to read, it wasn't just Elden Ring, that kind of proved that point.
Yeah, his number 2 was Bloodborne. His number 3, Dark Souls Remastered.
Oh boy.
And that was at 14% and 12%. And then wrapping up with MLB The Show at 6% and Final Fantasy VII, the original, at 4%.
Baseball's my favorite sport, Mark.
Yeah. So yeah, you guys are peas in a pod.
Yeah.
And he did get a bunch of platinums too. He got a platinum for Bloodborne and Dark Souls Remastered.
I don't have those. That's impressive.
Yeah, that's some good stuff. So
especially the Dark Souls one.
So hopefully you'll have some Souls news next year, as I'm sure Elden Ring will get DLC, and you can. And I didn't want to note about it, the hours he put into it. That's like the sign of like a great game, like a single player game.
Yeah.
Kind of like what Skyrim was to a lot of people, that you can put it in 184 hours. And probably still wants to play more. Like, that's.
We'll get into it more when we talk about games of the year, but it's mind-blowing how flexible that game is.
Right.
How you can have so many different builds, so many different ways to tackle it. They feel valid and entirely different. And so, yeah, it's just...
And still fun.
Yeah.
That you want to play that much. So, thanks, Mark, for writing in again. We appreciate it. And, yeah, great stuff. You had definitely a great year in PlayStation.
Nice.
For someone who just got back into it.
Yeah, that's true. Did Jake give you more of his stats or no?
No.
Okay.
The only one that matters is the 22 platinum.
Yeah.
Like that is insane.
I know he said I think his most played game was Cyberpunk.
Right. Yeah. So was it over 100 hours.
All right, man. Well, you want to go over yours first?
Yep. So here we're gonna read the games that, again, as we talk about what we're gonna award our awards to games that we played this year and completed, not just games that came out this year. Because again, as me and John, this is a secondary hobby. We're always catching up. We try to keep on top of all the big releases, but a lot of things slip through our fingers, like Elden Ring and stuff like that. So here are the games that I completed and are eligible for winning the categories we'll get into later. So I have Horizon Forbidden West, Deathloop, Cyberpunk 2077, The Quarry, TMNT Shredder's Revenge, Stray, Marvel's Avengers,
Stray,
The Artful Escape, A Plague Tale Innocence, Saints Row, Yakuza Like a Dragon, Chicory A Colorful Tale, Spiritfarer, The Last of Us Part 1, A Plague Tale Requiem, God of War Ragnarok, Kenna Bridge of Spirits, and Neon White.
Yeah, you got good taste, Nick.
Yeah, that's a pretty good list.
Pretty good list of games.
18 total games, 7 of them from PS Plus or Extra. I platinumed 8 of the games, and then 9 of them are games that actually did come out this year. So, and then just to get into my hours here, 668 hours total, with Rocket League and Cyberpunk 2077 tying at 101 each.
Wow.
Followed by GTA Online at 76, Horizon Forbidden West at 56, and God of War Ragnarok at 52. So, yeah, this was a good year. When you think about all those games and how varied it is, PlayStation Plus Extra really helped, and just the essential games too being very good.
Yeah.
It's like kind of like a little, backup to when you're not playing the brand new stuff. So.
It's always important to keep a healthy backlog, man. I mean, we all joke about it, I think, every once in a while, but, to have something just to fall back on, in those times is I don't know, it's not a healthy way to game, but it's just, it's a good way to just make sure that you're always, I don't know, playing something you want to play as opposed to settling for something less than what you want to spend your time with.
As you kind of got into last week about, there's so many good games to play, why play, less than satisfying.
Why play
games.
Biomutant, Jake?
Yeah, good. Play a game that puts a smile on your face,
Mm-hmm. And that's also to say, if that game is Biomutant or anything else, don't let anybody tell you otherwise. As long as it's not Stray, don't play Stray.
Stray?
Stray?
All right, John. What is your 2022 wrap up?
All right, so the games that I've beaten. I didn't do the little breakdown like you did with games that came out this year, PS Plus and all that stuff, so sorry.
No, that's all right.
But I have played this year Final Fantasy VII Remake, Horizon Forbidden West, Grease, or Gris, Gris, I don't know how to pronounce it, Undertale, Doom Eternal, The Quarry, my favorite, Descenders, Death's Door, The Artful Escape, Stray, Deathloop, Cuphead, Goat Simulator, Gone Home, God of War Ragnarok, and then I had to put these on the list, even though they're not PlayStation games, Into the Breach and Vampire Survivors. And then I want to also just have a little bit honorable mention for Elden Ring. I've probably put in 15 hours. I just haven't beaten it, so that's why it's, it's probably not as, I'm not going to be able to talk about it as much as I want to today.
Yeah, you won't have Mark's knowledge.
Yeah, so well, as you see when we get into some of the categories, I'm sure there's some things that'll fit in. But then Ghost Runner, I think that game's awesome. I just haven't beaten it. Disco Elysium, I got a lot of playtime in. Want to finish it, but just haven't. And then The Last of Us Part 1 got kind of usurped by God of War Ragnarok. I'll get back to it eventually. But then let's see. So for my wrap up, now, again, disclaimer for me, because I have a little boy, and I've tried to get him on his own account, but he loves mine, and that's where he wants to play. So, I have more of a life than this, but I've gamed for 1,100 and 78 hours this year.
Oh,
1,178.
wow. That PlayStation has paid for itself.
Yes.
Over and over again.
Yes.
Impressive.
Yeah. She puts in the work. And I just hit back on my page. Okay. So my breakdown for those games. Number 1. I don't even want to say it. Number 1, Descenders. All right. Again, I have a 5-year-old boy.
I think any listener with kids understands that you're not alone.
All right, December. How many hours, Nick?
Of the 1,000?
Yeah.
Oh man, God. I want to say half, but I'm gonna go a little lower. I'm gonna be like 400.
227.
Okay.
Yep. 227 hours of that game. Yep. Number 2, Rocket League. 148 hours.
Yeah.
That is my guilty pleasure. I play it with my buddy who lives in Colorado. Returning from last year's wrap-up, Spider-Man, Marvel Spider-Man, 104 hours. My son does other things besides play video games. And then the games I played this year, actually. Number 4, Horizon Forbidden West, 80 hours. And number 5, God of War, Ragnarok, 72. Which is weird because my clock in the game says like 51. But,
Sure.
Is what it is.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
So that's
both good lists.
Yeah, if I didn't have my son in there, I don't know what my other games would be. I actually kind of wish I knew. Like if I didn't have Spider-Man Descenders, I definitely would have Rocket League. I don't know what would fit in there.
Right.
Probably Returnal. Like Returnal and like Elden
Yeah, I'm just
Ring,
trying to
maybe.
think
I
of
don't
a
know.
game that you would have put a lot of time into that.
Final Fantasy 7 maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good
Might have
one.
been that one, but yep. So yeah, you guys need to game more. Catch up with me and my son.
All right. So again, all those games we listed are eligible for any of these awards, the 6 awards we got going here. So just keep that in mind. So let's get into it. And the very first one we're going to talk about is Best Indie Game. And how this works is we're each going to bring a nominee that we want to, and then we're going to pick from our own nominees, each of us.
So Nick and I are each going to have our winners.
Yeah,
it's not going to be a
correct.
combined thing.
Yeah, correct. So I'll start it off with John's favorite game, and that's Stray.
You nominated Stray? You
Yes.
piece of shit.
John, I know you don't like the game, but there's a lot of things going for it. Great art direction, the perfect length. It kind of really kicked off PlayStation Plus Extra, like a reason to get it.
I will give you that.
It was the talk of the internet, and
Well, the internet's wrong about a lot of things, but
and it was Game of the Year nominee.
Yeah.
So I know, like you didn't hate it enough to not platinum it. So you did platinum it, but
I kid, I joke, I get in these moods. It's not the worst game I've ever played. I just have a problem. I think I mostly just have a problem with it getting nominated for Game of the Year. Like I think that's what it is because, yes, it's the perfect length, but that's not a reason a game is good. Is that it's 4 hours long?
Well, I think maybe if it was longer, I might be a little bit more on your side of like the
For
gameplay
sure.
is just not there. But I think like it just like pop in and pop out. It was like I said, it was a great demonstration of why you should get extra for games like you wouldn't have spent $30 on Stray.
No,
You probably would have felt
absolutely
bad
not.
if you did.
100%.
But as a built-in add-on to this service, it did the job, and it put a lot of eyes on the service itself. Like if you wanted to play Stray, you subscribed to PlayStation Plus Extra.
I did. I mean, you got me there. It's just, I think it's there's no narrative really. You could argue, sure, you can get real pedantic with me if you want there. The gameplay is hitting X on a ledge. And the only real gameplay is when you have to run away from those damn head crabs. Like,
It's an adventure game through and through. Like you're
it's
at this
beautiful.
for that and other things.
I feel like they could have done I just remember being lost in that small city more than I should have been.
Right.
I'm like, where do I go next? What do I need to do? Give me some markers. Give me something. But it was beautiful. People love their cats. If it was a dog game, I probably wouldn't have said a damn bad word about it because I love dogs. Okay. Anyway, so we don't need to make this 4 hours.
No,
I guess.
Go ahead. What's your nominee?
All right. So, actually, similar in the same vein of game that you kind of bounced off of, Death's Door. Death's Door, I thought was just delightful. I thought again it had like a lot of good indie games do. It had great art direction. Little lovable crow character, and I just kind of vibed with the simplicity of the combat, the and the size of the world. It kind of was one of those where you start going into it and it feels very big, but once you start to realize, the level design and how things are laid out, it's not too overwhelming. And, I liked it enough to play through it twice to get to platinum. And, I thought it was, a pretty good one this year.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's amazing. It's not the best indie game I've ever played, but it was definitely worthy of a nomination.
That piano soundtrack always sticks with me. Like, I'll always remember it. Like, I always picture it in my head. Good choice. My next nominee is the recent game Neon White that we gushed about last week. The first-person trial-based game with the visual novel cutscenes that you heard last week about a girl
spit in my mouth.
Yeah. Just a great game, hands down. I'm with John that I think it should have gotten more attention than Stray.
Yeah.
But it's a great game, and I wish I could still be playing it, but we'll get into that later in another episode of what happened with me and Neon White.
Yeah. Tragedy. It's a horror story.
Yeah.
I also have Neon White as a nomination.
Okay.
So, again, not to belabor these points, go over it. It's just what it set out to do. It did it very, very well, and it's got some very clever level design and interesting mechanics that I think make it fresh and, just captures that, reasons why we play video games, why we're excited to jump back into something.
I can't wait for you to see the later cards in the game, because
really?
Yeah, there's some really good ones. They're really fun.
Okay.
So.
That's good, because I will say, like, I haven't got into it as much as you have, but like, I get the sense that like there's 97 missions. I feel like when I'm on mission like 47, I'll be like, I'm so burnt out right now.
Every mission has a theme, and later theme is really good. So
cool. All right.
So I guess, do I go again then if we both had?
Yeah, just do your last one.
Yep,
I'll do my last one.
My last one is Spiritfarer. This is a great game. It was added to PlayStation Plus Extra. It was a management sim game in which you ferry spirit animals to cross over, and it had a bunch of fun, great art style, fun sim, deep story. If you've ever dealt with the loss of a loved one, this is just maybe a very cathartic game to play to get you over that. And a lot of the developers credit that in the credits of the game. So just a great game, and again, another showcase of PlayStation Plus Extra, putting a game in front of me that I wouldn't normally have played, but so glad that I did. Spiritfarer is very excellent.
Who recommended that game to you?
John?
Yeah, that game is real special. I played it on Xbox when it came out, just because when I had COVID, it was just one of the games that I wanted to check out, and I don't like management sim kind of games, but there's something just wholesome about that one. Right. Super, super wholesome. All right, and then my last indie game of the year. This one definitely did not come out this year, but it was one of the most special gaming experiences I had this entire year. That is Undertale.
Yeah.
This game is just, I think the running theme with indie games is uniqueness. If you can be unique, if you can kind of tackle something in a different way than a lot of the big publishers do, or whatever the case, you're going to at least get eyes on you. And this game is funny, it's heartfelt, it's clever, it's got a very interesting battle style. But I can't recall more, like, smiling more while I'm going through a game than playing Undertale. There's just so many little moments that you're just kind of, they catch you by surprise, or the one that I always think about is the enemy dog that you have to fight or whatever. You don't fight really. You cannot fight anybody if you don't want to, but every time you pet them, their head gets longer, and then it goes above the screen, and then it starts to come back down, and it's just like, what is going on? But you're smiling the whole way, and I'm really happy I finally got to it. It's been one that I've been pushing off for a while, just because it is so different that it's hard to kind of wrap your head around it initially. But once you let it grab a hold of you, man, it's a very memorable experience. Great soundtrack, and another game made by one guy, Toby Fox, is pretty awesome. So Undertale for sure, man.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I definitely was expecting that one.
Yeah.
So my winner for best indie game, this shouldn't be a surprise, it's Neon White.
Yeah.
What a great surprise at the end of the year. What an addictive game. It has most tightest controls. Like when you make a mistake, just like we mentioned with other games like Returnal or Hades, you make mistakes in this game, it's on you. It was not the game. So just awesome. What an awesome game. What an awesome presentation and just overall package. It's near perfect game. So beautiful. That is my best indie game of the year.
Yeah, that's a great pick, man. It's my runner-up, but I got to give it to Undertale. What I just said, super special, super everything. Just check out Undertale if you haven't played it. Came out in 2015, so it's even when it's not on sale, I think it's $15. So if you ever see it on sale, you've been curious about it at all, check it out. It's also got a pretty easy, manageable platinum if you're into that kind of thing.
Okay. Cool.
Yay.
All right, next category, John, take it away.
Best boss fight. So it could be any boss fight we've encountered throughout the year. So I'll just jump right into it. The first one I'm going to pick. Now, again, I'm going to keep saying this, but I do have asterisks with Elden Ring. I have not gotten through it, so there's bosses I know like Melania. That might be Melania Trump. I don't think it's Melania, but you know who I'm talking about. Yeah. The one that
the redhead.
Let me solo her, had to deal with. But I'm going with Godric the Grafted, who is he's the boss of Stormvale Castle, one of the very first huge dungeons you come across in the game. And if you've ever played a From Software game, I don't think anybody needs to explain how special their enemy and boss designs are. This is no exception. It's this hulking, gross man beast thing with like arms kind of coming out.
He was featured in like the first trailer.
Yeah, if you've seen a trailer of this game, you've seen this dude. Yeah. But like what really kind of set this one over the top for me is, again, if you're familiar with Souls fights, usually there's a phase shift, oftentimes halfway through. When you get to the halfway point with this, the fight stops, it pauses, gets into a cutscene. Godric cuts off his own arm and then finds a dragon head on a pillar next to you, attaches it to his arm, and then he's got a dragon flamethrower that he's launching at you through this fight. And I remember when that happened, I just couldn't believe it. And, and got some epic Elden Ring type dialogue while it's going on as well. But, it was awesome standard From Software fight. I would probably have some others on this list if I got through all of Elden Ring before this year, but who knows? Maybe I'll be able to bring them next year when we do this. So, Godric the Grafted.
Nice. All right. So
you taking the obvious one?
No, I won't take the obvious one. I'm going to take the Tide Ripper from Horizon Forbidden West. Ooh. Do you remember which one was the Tide Ripper?
Yeah, that's like the this is going to be a stupid analogy, but Lapras from Pokemon.
Yeah.
That's kind of what he is.
I forget the dinosaur that
it's
is.
It's like Loch Ness Monster kind of thing, right?
Yeah. It looks like the Loch Ness Monster. You fight this thing for the first time in that world's equivalent of Las Vegas. It's been destroyed.
Cool moment.
As Aloy, you have to go underwater, to retrieve an item, and it's kind of teased in the background as it's swimming around in the water, and as you go through the level and then finally get towards the end, it's finally revealed, and it's just a big hulking boss. It shoots water at you. It's just again, and a game featured with giant creatures. This one just really stood out. It's in a cool location. I think you have turned the lights on at this point, so all the Las Vegas lights are going off. Just a really fun fight. It was not particularly challenging in any way, but just a memorable beast to fight in Horizon Forbidden West.
Yeah, I mean that game, really is at its best when you're fighting those giant monsters, and I think the Tremor Tusk was featured so heavily in the marketing material that when you saw it was cool, but okay, I know this is here. So anytime you would come across the Tide Ripper, or I don't remember the name of the snapping turtle, whatever that was, or the snakes, those were the moments that really stuck with me because that's why you play a game where you're fighting robot machines. You want to fight the cool ones. I think in Burning Sands, it's the Scorpion
Burning
looks
Shores.
to be Burning Shores. Yeah. It's gonna be the Scorpion looks to be kind of the one that they at least highlighted in the marketing material.
And in Forbidden or the Frozen Wilds, it was the polar bear one was the featured one.
Yeah.
So the Burning Shores will be the same way. It'll be what are we gonna see in that game?
I want to fight a giant panda bear. It just kind of rolls around. All right, my next pick, going back to Undertale, Sans. Sans fight. Now, this is it's kind of a hidden fight, and without getting into too much of Undertale, there's two very different ways to play this game. You can either go the pacifist route, where you're kind of like doing a funny reasoning with the enemy, much like I explained with the dog, where you can, instead of fight him, you can pet him, and then his head grows, right? And you can get out of the fight that way. But if you do the so it's the pacifist route or the genocide route, which is where you're fighting everybody. And if you do the genocide route, you will fight Sans at the end of the game. And Sans is kind of like your buddy through this entire thing. He's like this chummy, silly, funny kind of guy that really just wants to kind of hang out with you and be your friend throughout the whole game. But again, if you kill enough people, like he's gonna want to try and fight you. And this boss fight is insanity. I don't know how much we want to get into, like, just the right. gameplay style of it, but you're moving this little heart in a box underneath what's like the picture of the enemy above you. Look it up if you're curious, but it's insanity. But like the thing that really sticks in my mind with this fight is Megalovania is playing while you fight him.
Of course.
Megalovania is one of the dopest audio. We had it featured on the show before. Yep. One of the dopest audio tracks I've seen in video games in a long, long, long time, and it's just kind of a good. It's just a good, cap on the experience of Undertale. It's a good final boss. It's got great music. You kind of are expecting to fight him at this point, but when you do, it's just kind of a cool thing, and very memorable. So, Sans.
All right. Well, one franchise has been absent of this, our award-winning franchise, God of War. We got to talk about some of those bosses.
Nah, dude, those all suck.
Yeah. And, of course, we're going to mention Garm. When we talked about God of War Ragnarok, I had asked John what his favorite boss fight was, and he said Garm, and he's right. Mm-hmm. Garm is a giant wolf, and by giant, I mean it takes up the whole screen. It was featured in the promotional trailer for the game, and the boss fight does not disappoint. Garm has massive chains on him that he's flinging at you, that you're grabbing and using to fuck with him and choke him out at one point. And he just keeps coming back, like just running down hallways while Garm just rips it to shreds all around you. Just God of War is built on its memorable boss fights. That's kind of one of the staples of the franchise, and this is it. This is the fight that you will remember. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we've said it before, but if there's one thing that 2018 didn't really get right with God of War, it was the boss fights, and this was exactly what I was wanting from the team. Mm-hmm. The whole fight starts off by Kratos flying himself onto Garm's muzzle or snout and using his fucking blades to dig into him. He's flying around. It's doing the cameras going all over the place, very much similar to how the PS2 and PS3 games operated, where you go on the Colossus of Rhodes or the Hydra or whatever the case. But you said, it continuously surprises when you choke him out and you're dead. The XP for Atreus and Kratos pops. You're I'm good. And then when it happens, when Garm comes back, Kratos actually sounds panicked. I watched the fight again today, and Atreus goes, "What do we do?" And he's like, "I do not know. Run, run!" And it's just, it's very rare that you see Kratos like that. So you kind of felt a little bit of tension there, and then mentioning he doesn't have a soul to kill, so we cannot kill him, which is right. At that moment that, of course, as the culmination of this fight, which is one of the best moments in the entire game.
Yes.
When you transfer that soul of Fenrir into Garm, and you see the transformation of this mean wolf that wants to rip you to shreds to this lovable puppy that wants to lick your face. Is as Dick has a dog, I got two. It doesn't really get much better than that.
And that's another thing to mention about best boss fights is a satisfying conclusion to it.
Yeah.
Whatever happens, most games it's we destroyed it or whatever, it blows up, or in Souls games it just disappears,
Yeah.
This had such a satisfying conclusion and just a great moment.
Yeah. And one other thing that I noticed about it today too is it's like a 15-20 minute boss fight when everything all together. Right. And so there's actually a decent amount of dialogue between Kratos and Atreus, and this part of the game was right after Atreus comes back from Asgard for the first time.
Right. So
Kratos is kind of talking and be "What did you learn while you were over there?" And he's like, "Well, I learned that we work better together if we trust each other." And then right after that, Atreus is like, "I know what to do." He's like, "All right, go do it.
Right.
And so it's like, it's like kind of this, it's this building moment of their relationship and, juxtaposition and with the background drop of fighting this massive wolf. And, yeah, it's amazing. That's also, I obviously have that on my list, so I don't have another one.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have one more, or is that it?
Yeah, I have one more.
Okay.
And just continuing with God of War Ragnarok, the other great fight is Nidhogg. When you're going to try and free Freya from her curse, this thing is protecting it, and it is a giant salamander-looking creature with vicious claws and the ability to teleport itself in and out of the environment.
Yeah.
It's just, again, a great boss fight, a memorable, epic God of War boss fight, which, again, talking about conclusions to a fight, this one has a great one where you close a portal on its head.
Yeah,
it's just,
that was pretty awesome moment.
And it's kind of like when Freya is kind of just introduced as like a secondary character, so just fighting alongside we'll get to later, one of the cooler characters in the whole franchise in the reboot, Freya, just to fight alongside her and have her help you put the finishing blow on this thing. Just a great moment. Again, very memorable.
Yeah. Oh, it's a great pick. Especially like you said, that portal closing on the head is like the only thing I can think of ever seeing anything like that is like Ragnarok. The Thor Ragnarok, the movie. It's like almost exactly how that dragon dies in the beginning.
Yeah.
No, that's a good pick, man. I mean, it was either going to be, if I was going to include another God of War boss, it would have either been that one or Gryla. Gryla was pretty cool too.
Yeah, a lot of people like that one.
But yeah, those three boss fights were better than any boss fight in 2018's version for sure. So they definitely worked on that and did it well.
Yeah.
So I have my choice. I don't know about you.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's Garm, baby. Gotta be Garm.
Yeah, this is, I don't know if we should have a term for this when we both pick the same thing.
It's a boondoggle.
Mine is also Garm. Just, again, fantastic, memorable God of War.
Yep.
This is why you play it, for moments like that. So.
Yeah, I wonder if it didn't resolve the way it did, I wonder if I'd have a harder time picking this. But I think it's just, like you said, the ending of that fight and how he becomes your dog is like, it's amazing. So good.
Yeah. All right. So moving on.
I'm sorry. Honorable mention. All of Cuphead. I couldn't.
Sure.
They're all great. All of Cuphead.
All right. So now moving on to best performance. This is by a male or female voice actor in a game. I'll start things off. Let's continue God of War because she got done dirty.
She did.
Freya, played by Daniel Basutti from God of War Ragnarok. She is incredible, and what is great about her character compared to, like, Kratos doesn't really have the range. He's either really angry or he's very calm. Freya's character is all over the place. She's a mess at the beginning of the game because her son died, and then she kind of has to, like, this uneasy alliance with Kratos to kind of finding mutual respect. The moment where she reunites with her brother was great. Just she killed it. Every scene she was in, even the ending fight with Odin, when she has that noose around his neck and she's just like satisfyingly enjoying this moment where she's getting revenge on Odin. Just, man.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
She's definitely she's a nominee for me as well.
Yeah.
She was the surprise of the game, I think, just in terms of performances. And I think because we knew her from the first game where she took a much bigger back seat to Kratos and Atreus, and she was pretty front and center in this one, to the point where I can't believe she didn't get nominated. And like, no disrespect to Sonny, he's great, but like Atreus was just fine throughout the entire game. I was still kind of waiting for that moment with him where it's like, okay, where's this huge performance coming from? Because he got nominated at the Game Awards, but she didn't. So I think she, I would hope that she starts to get a lot of roles. And I don't know if she's going to be one of those actresses. Do you know if she does a lot of movies and TV, or if she's... I
have no idea. I've never looked up her filmography or if she's been in other games that we know of.
Yeah, I just wonder if, like, she wants to try and throw her hat in the ring of just, getting more video game roles or, like, branch out into the movie TV space. But either way, if I see her attached to something, I'm definitely going to, be...
Funny that you mention that because it's just unrelated. I just recently found out an Andor character played... oh, God. Now, why am I... in The Witcher 3, his main love interest.
Jennifer?
Yeah, Yennefer.
Okay.
The character in Andor just played Yennefer, and my mind was blown. I was like, I love this character even more now. This actress.
Yennefer's the dark-haired one, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's my
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why my brain skipped on that, but
Nice.
yeah,
Maybe
that
I'll
same
watch
moment, Daniel Basuti's probably in something else we know of. But
Maybe I'll watch Andor now.
all right, so I guess I got to go again since that was also yours.
I don't know. I can go if you want. It's up to you.
No, it's fine. My next one is Female V, played by Cherami Leigh from Cyberpunk 2077.
Cherami?
Cherami. Cherami. Cherami.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. That was just a weird name. All right.
Again, this is a person that had to voice a character throughout the entire game, and there are so many strong performances from Keanu Reeves and all the other side characters in Cyberpunk 2077 that it was really great to have a character just like Shepard was in the Mass Effect trilogies, to have a really great main character voice actress just killing it and just working off all these other actors, because it's probably not easy. They probably weren't even in the same room for all
Yeah.
And just that many lines of dialogue over the course of the game, and then just even more as Phantom Liberty comes out next year. Just a great performance, just awesome as we see all the different emotions as Johnny Silverhands is slowly taking over the body of V. Man.
Yeah, so I guess that would because I still haven't gotten through that game. Like, do you feel like you lose anything because it's first person, or it's so good that it's structured in a way that you don't feel like you're losing anything? You know what I mean?
I don't see the facial.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't know.
You get a lot of the emotions just through the voice.
Yeah.
All right, that's good.
Yeah. So
Nice. Well, similarly, I also have a first-person shooting actor, Jason E. Kelly, for playing Colt Vaughn in Deathloop.
Mm-hmm. Great at swearing.
Yeah, very good at swearing. But really, I almost feel like I need to nominate Juliana. I can't remember her. Juliana, yeah, the voice actress who played her as well, because really they both shine when they're bantering off of each other. There's just very, very good banter between the two. Whether they're really just kind of shitting on each other throughout the whole game. So it's a lot of funny dialogue, a lot of things like that. But as you play through the game, you kind of realize they have a different relationship than you might think. And it was just kind of refreshing to kind of get that much personality through a first-person shooting experience, and I've never really played an Arcane game, so I didn't know what to expect with that, but I was just, pleasantly surprised that I wasn't trying to just skip forward with all the dialogue and everything, and I would usually kind of stop doing what I was doing if they were talking to one another, and it was just I think there is something very hard to do when it comes to comedic acting in general, but especially voice acting, and so, was he the funniest character in the world? No, but I feel like he did that character very, very well, and he really made Colt feel like a person, not just another body that's being filled by a voice actor. It felt like he was living and breathing that guy. So I was not expecting any of that when I went into that game, and was pleasantly surprised.
Oh, yeah, that is a very good one.
Yeah.
And then my final nominee is the character Laura Kearney. Do you know who that is?
Laura Kearney, the character?
The character's name is Laura Kearney. You know what game that's from?
Is that the Quarry?
It is the Quarry. It is the main girl, the girl that you are in the prologue.
Okay, yeah, she was good.
Played by Siobhan Williams.
Siobhan
Williams. Just great. This character she's the final girl, basically. Pretty much the main female character that somehow survives all these encounters. But just a great performance, and again, the facial capture in that game was amazing, and she had to go a wide range of emotions throughout that game, not just the horror vibe, but just even bouncing off of what's Sam Raimi's brother? Or is it
Ted?
Yeah, Ted Raimi.
No, sorry, my wife.
Just an overall great performance. I loved it. She made that game, and I know I got one of the more positive endings, so that might have an impact on my love of the character. But just great overall. A great reason to play that game, and she killed it.
Oh, good one. Yeah, I've thought about the Quarry. All I can remember is the horrible job that the one guy did. Just the guy that talked like this the whole game.
Oh, Will Smith.
Yeah. Well, no, is he Will Smith's son?
Yeah, from Detective Pikachu.
That's not Will Smith's son. No way.
Yeah, isn't that a Smith?
I don't think
Justice
so.
Smith? Isn't that Justice Smith?
Hold on. Sorry, guys. We have to do a live check because his name is Justice Smith.
Yeah, I'm almost positive he's.
I don't know. It is the most popular name in the world in that last name. Live check.
If he's not a Smith, then I'm that's crazy.
He's not.
Oh wow, okay. Well, now my mind's gonna just blown. I thought he was.
Yeah, he's not. He's not weird enough to be Will Smith's kid. Anyway, cool. No, that's a good pick, man. And then lastly, and I'm mad at you for not having him, Christopher Judge as Kratos. Nothing needs more to be said. You know, you can watch his 19-minute Game Awards speech if you want to listen to him. But I just think what he did with that character, a character who was comedically talked about by everybody as just being the most one-note anger character ever, to actually spin him around and give him some of the most emotion that I've seen in a video game character in a long time is wild. And a lot of that credit goes to the writers, but it's his performance that brought it to life. And I just think he is Kratos now. Like, he from here on out, that's probably the number one reason this show I think is going to fall flat, is that anybody who tries to be Kratos that doesn't look exactly like it does, it's just going to look like a cosplay. It's going to look like fan things.
It's very hard.
And the voice, if the voice isn't
challenge.
right too.
Yep. So
So it's just Kratos is Christopher Judge. Christopher Judge is Kratos. And I don't think you can really compliment an actor more on that for something. So,
all right. So the winner for best performance for me is Freya by Danielle Basutti. Again, she deserves her day in the sun, as she should have at least been nominated.
Yeah.
But here, for me, she wins.
She got the
Best
most important award.
Yeah, best performance.
We'll send her a trophy. All right, and that for me, it's Christopher Judge. I can't deny him. I'd like to spread the love around, but it might be a little bit of biasness seeping in, but he's so good. He everything I just said.
Yeah.
He deserves it.
All right. So next category.
Okay, best weapon. And disclaimer, I didn't play all of Elden Ring, so so yeah, I know there's obviously a shit ton in there, but I felt a little disingenuous if I tried to look at what are the best Elden Ring weapons or whatever the case. So first and foremost, Draupnir Spearman, the new weapon for God of War. Hopefully you've played that game. I just realized that might have been a spoiler. Hopefully,
a lot of things you've been saying. I'll put a spoiler.
Yeah, we'll put a spoiler.
Notes.
Yeah, but this is the new weapon you get in Ragnarok. A lot of us, Nick and I included, thought you would for sure be getting Thor's hammer in this game, and upon thinking about it further, it's like, well, then that's basically the same thing as the axe. So is that really that cool? But I thought the spear was really the perfect weapon to give Kratos. Him having his Roman Greek background, really makes sense because all those soldiers had that weapon. The fact that it was this ring that can just basically duplicate itself, that you could just kind of throw it over again. Mm-hmm. Great mechanic, and then adding the icing on the cake is holding triangle to explode everything around, or every spear that was stuck into something was just a very satisfying combat,
including a god's arm,
including Heimdall's stupid arm. So I think it was just what you would expect from that combat team. Just a very expertly designed weapon that that's one of. At no point in that game did I feel like, I have to use this weapon. They were all viable. They were all great, except, if there was an element thing you had to deal with. And, I love all three of those weapons so much.
Yeah. It is on my list as well. And you said it perfectly, so I'll just leave it at that.
Sure. Okay. And then my second weapon, the Heritage Gun from Deathloop. Now, there are 4 legendary guns you can get in this game that kind of operate differently. And for those who haven't played it, you're kind of, you're doing these little runs through a level, and you're oftentimes using the same guns over and over again. It might be a shotgun, might be a machine gun, might be a really powerful pistol. But the Heritage Gun is the best way I can explain it is a sniper shotgun, where it shoots this, super high-powered slug at a distance. So when I got this gun, man, I that's all I wanted to use, because I could shoot guys from afar and one shot. It made a super satisfying noise when you shot it. If I'm up close, I switch it to the shotgun mode, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's just, I've never had a gun in a game, I think, that functioned both as a sniper and as a shotgun. And yeah, it just, the moment I got that gun, it instantly became one of my favorite, like, actual, just first-person shooting guns in really any game ever, I think. And, yeah, man, it was just super fun to use.
I don't think I ever got that one.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of a bummer in that game is, I think they had separate missions for the guns. And, like, unless if you really are trying to do everything in that game, there's very little incentive to go through an entire run just to get a gun that you have to find, that you have to probably look up a guide for to know how to do it. Yeah, I think this one I just stumbled across, though, and then once I found out that that's how you get these guns, sorry, guys. My wife again, I just need to silence my phone. Yeah, once I got that, man, that's all I wanted to use. Yeah. So good.
Okay, cool. My next nominee is the weapon Skippy from Cyberpunk 2077. This is an AI smart machine gun that has a built-in AI that talks to you.
Oh, nice.
When you meet it, it has two modes. It asks you if you want to be a puppy-loving pacifist or a stone-cold killer.
You better show pacifist.
And then when you depending on what you chose, it'll automatically home in either on their face or their limbs. Just a cool gun.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, the bullets automatically will home in on their face if you're Stone Cold Killer. A cool gun. It sings. It talks to you. You'll just be playing randomly, and it'll just start talking to you again. And then it eventually will become its own side quest. And it's just a gun you randomly pick up. So, you just find it on a body in an alley, and then the story picks up from there. But and it has a heads-up display of a little like Clippy version, but it's a bullet. If you remember Clippy from like Office, the Office software, he looks just like that.
I see him every day.
Yeah. So he's a little bullet. Just a great funny weapon, and again, taking advantage of that futuristic aesthetic of Cyberpunk.
Sounds like a great nomination. I probably would. I mean, yeah. If you have a gun that's talking to you and you can, it automatically goes based on what you tell. That's kind of cool. So, all right. Lastly, I had a hard time finding my last one, but when I thought back on a lot of my gaming over the year and difficulty and all that stuff, it's hard to ignore Cuphead. And Nick kind of put this little bug in my head earlier. Any of those weapons, I'm like, maybe. But one that I think I vaults it into this list is the roundabout from Cuphead, because it was a weapon that I was ignoring entirely throughout this entire game until I got to the very end and I was facing the devil, and I didn't know how to really get to him. There was just this weird pattern that he was doing that everything I threw at him, he would just get the better of me, until I found out this roundabout gun, which is basically a gun that shoots very minimally in front of you, but then it shoots infinitely behind you. So you can be running away from an enemy shooting it, and it's just going to keep kind of coming back to him. So you can kind of keep running away, keep your distance where you need to. And I think I just I love that gun so much now, because it allowed me to get my favorite platinum maybe of all time. Without it, I don't think I would have gotten through it. So yeah, just a shout out to the roundabout from Cuphead. Don't sleep on that if you want to get through the platinum. And I'm sure it's like that with many of those guns. Each of those guns are probably tailored towards a couple specific bosses to make it a little easier. But yeah, that one was really just kind of. I think the moment I tried it, I was like, oh yeah, okay, this is the thing now. So
yeah. All right, and then my final nominee is kind of unfair because this game was entirely built around this weapon, and that is the paintbrush from Chicory, A Colorful Tale. You wield this thing the entire time. It gets new abilities. It allows you to paint the entire environment, to traverse and defeat enemies. Just a great and interesting mechanic to apply to that that third person, isometric view gameplay that A Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past perfected. Yeah, just overall just great and fun, and drawing silly drawings that look horrible because you're trying to draw with a controller, and to be used as a brand for a pizza shop or a t-shirt company
Yeah.
is just silly. And just a cool mechanic that you can just you can paint the entire world if you wanted. So just something different.
I did notice that you nominated Stray over Chicory. Stray's a better game, huh?
Yes, I liked it more than
All right,
Chicken.
that's fair. All right, and so that's it. You want to go first?
It's the Dropnir Spear.
Yeah, it is.
And I think the best part of it is it had to compete with the Leviathan Axe and the Chains of Chaos for, best weapon. And it was a weapon that I loved using and wanted to play over those two at some point. So
it's incredible, man.
That's awesome.
It's incredible that the blades of chaos are so good, and then the Leviathan Axe comes in, and you're like, oh, this is fine. And then the Dropnir Spear is so good that it makes both of those be like, no, those I don't need those. Like, it's top tier weapon design, man. They know what they're doing over there. I do love the Heritage gun, but it's at the end of the day, it's just another gun,
right.
And it's got to do, something that I shoot has to be like Ratchet and Clanky or, Sunset Overdrive-y or something to really get there. But the Spear felt so good. So good to use.
Yeah. All right. Next category, best character to have a drink with. My first nominee is Ichiban Kasuga from Yakuza Like a Dragon. Because funnily enough, how you level up your party members, your relationship with them, is by having a drink with them. And this is where Ichiban, who's a lovable character, he wears his heart on his sleeve, he gives you some nice, great, real world of advice.
Is he the main guy?
Yeah, that's the main character. Yeah, okay. I should have mentioned that. Yeah, the main protagonist of Yakuza Like a Dragon, who will be back in the sequel. Just a great character, and if I could sit and have a drink with him and level up my relationship with him while he gives me some good real world advice, that's pretty good.
Yeah, no, that's that. I think anybody in a Yakuza series would probably be fun to have a drink with. Like, they're all zany. Like, fucking, what's his name, man? Starts with an M. What's his name? Shit. All right, well, I'll come back to that. It's like the goofy guy from the original.
Oh,
I can't remember his name, but all right. So I'll just start with my obvious one, Mimir, dude. I don't know if you could ask for a better drinking partner than Mimir. This guy is just full of storytelling. He's the smartest man alive. He could obviously just regale you story after story and talk. Just be somebody that I want to have a drink with. Now you'd probably have to give him his drink. You'd probably have to tip the beer into his mouth because he has nothing besides a head. But that's okay because I think everything else would make it worthwhile. And he's got the
beer bong.
Yeah, just put it in a funnel into his mouth. He's got the Scottish-Irish accent thing already. He just and he seems like somebody who really, really values his friends. Like, that's I would imagine one of his strongest characteristics. So man, I would love to have a drink with Mimir.
Yeah, and I would as well, as I also nominated Mimir as that. So you can read off your next one.
Cool. All right, well, I'm going to stick with God of War then. Now, there's a caveat for this one. I put Sindri, but happy Sindri.
Okay.
I don't want depressed Sindri. Because he's kind of a shithead. But happy Sindri, first half of the game Sindri is funny, lovable. He makes jokes. He's a dwarf, so obviously he can drink. He just seems like he's like that guy at the bar that might be a good wingman. He's I'm a dwarf. I'm not going to pick up the chicks, but hey, I'll go introduce you. He's just seems like a good companion to hang out with. So
he's a little awkward and silly.
That's fine. I'm awkward and silly.
Okay.
I'm awkward and silly, so it fits. Come on, Nick. Have I ever made you uncomfortable in any situations? I'm good at that.
Yeah. My final nominee then is Jackie Wells from Cyberpunk 2077. This is your first companion, your buddy. You drink with him a lot in the game. And I mean, it was in a trailer. Things don't go well for him. He he dies very early on in the game, and the fact that that is a powerful moment, despite it being spoiled in a trailer for the game leading up to it, and knowing that it was going to happen, it's still, that's just the impact of that character. And then when he was alive and you're hanging out with him, he's just like another character that wears their heart on their sleeve, is very loyal, like a lot of these characters we mentioned are. And yeah, just would be a good guy. He'd have some good stories for you too.
Sure. All right, my last one is Fia, the deathbed companion from Elden Ring. Do you know who this is, Nick?
Is this the one that hugs you?
Yeah, this is the one that embraces you, puts your head right in her bosom, lets you get comfortable and relax. So yeah, she doesn't talk much. I'm not a talker either. So like, we can sit at the bar, maybe you have something to say, maybe you don't. You just sit there quietly, and she goes, "You want a hug?" I'm like, "Yeah, I want a hug." I give her a hug, go back to my drink. "Oh, you want to watch the sports game?" "Nah, change it." I give her another hug. And and then we're good. So, Fia, man,
what an odd relationship that would be. That'd be an odd night.
This is my dream, man. Have somebody that can give me hugs, and I don't have to talk.
There is something to be said, because people do get paid to give people hugs and cuddle for times.
Nobody wants to be maidenless, Nick. I mean, you gotta have a maiden. So, yeah, man, Fia.
All right, so I guess it was winter time.
I should have picked Jormungandr. Nah.
My winner is Jackie Wells from Cyberpunk 2077. Again, a great character, a great introduction to that world, and again, just a powerful person to have by your side in those opening missions and opening encounters, and just a great guy.
Sure. Mimir for me.
Yeah.
He's I feel like this category is made for a Mimir. Like I literally can't think of another person. Like he is the smartest man in the world that has more stories than you could possibly. Like, what else do you need from a drinking buddy? You're good. So yeah, God of War continues to win awards.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Everyone has been nominated for it. So
yeah, except for best. Yeah, obviously, best indie game has won. So yeah.
All right. Well, let's see if
it
it does a clean sweep, John. What is our final category?
Game of the year.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I ranked my 3. Did you rank your 3?
No, I did not.
Okay. So I want to start out with a shout out.
Okay.
Because it feels wrong not to at least talk about this game one more time. I cannot explain to you how much I like Into the Breach. I, to this day, play it. I do the same type of 8x8 bullshit every single time, and somehow it's still engaging. Like, I don't know what it is, where you get into these situations, and the ways you can analyze it and tackle it's just fucking great. And I don't like strategy games. It blows my mind. So Nick, please, if you haven't tried it yet, just put it on your phone.
I have tried it.
You have tried it. Okay.
It's on my phone.
All right. So it's it's just really, I really, 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 really like it. It's a bummer it's not on PlayStation, because I would definitely try and get the platinum in that. But maybe not, because I do admittedly play the game on easy, because I don't want to be too stressed out.
Right.
So shout out to Into the Breach. My number 3 game of the year is Undertale. Really that good for me. I don't need to say more about it, and you should definitely play it if you have not yet.
Okay. I can pick up this ranking. So my number 3.
Yeah, that way number 1's game of the year. Blah blah blah.
Right. My number 3 is A Plague Tale Requiem. Again, I was introduced to this franchise this year, and it was great to fit in the first game before this came out. This still is one of the prettiest games on PlayStation. There's an island in this game, and the beaches and the kites flying and just the grass moving. It is a showcase for what games are going to look like in the future, and I can't wait. And just
not the future, Nick. Now. The future's now.
Yeah, that's true. True. But this is kind of the first game where I was like, oh shit, wow. And just a great story, great performances all around. Again, one of the kind of got overlooked between the big shadows of God of War Ragnarok and Elden Ring, but yeah, I would recommend trying that first game, and then if you like it, go right into this. It's great.
I've been meaning to get back to that. We'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
All right, Nick and I don't know. I know what Nick's remaining 2 games are. I think Nick knows what my remaining 2 games are. But I don't think either of us know where we ranked them. So the 2 games are Elden Ring and God of War Ragnarok, right? For me.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Like
will,
a lot of people.
like a lot of people. So while playing through God of War, I was convinced that my game of the year was going to be Elden Ring. The Souls formula, for me, is the pinnacle of game formula. There's just something about that cycle of, tooth and nail, fighting your way through even basic mobs is tough, to getting that experience, to fighting the final boss, to playing the way you wanted to, and to put that into an open world as good as that open world is. It's amazing what they were able to do with that series, and to continuously surprise people with random boss encounters that fly down where you're not expecting it, or stumbling across a door that leads to a cavern that you think is a small little area and it opens up into this crazy big underground area, or whatever the case may be. It truly is a very, 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 very special game, but it's probably my second favorite game this year. And there is also a small caveat: I have not beaten it, but I can confidently say, because I've played every other Souls game, I know what there is to offer. But I'm just gonna I'll finish with my Elden Ring, then we'll both.
I think it'll be interesting when you do complete Elden Ring. That
Yeah.
This question will be presented to you.
Yeah,
again.
yeah, we're definitely gonna have to revisit this, but I'll save the God of War talk for when we talk about number one. But Elden Ring, it really changed the landscape. It consumed all of the oxygen in the room as in terms of discussion on podcasts, websites, whatever the case. Reviewed unfathomably high, and I think just is really going to be looked upon in years to come as one of those touchstone games that kind of shifted the way that the industry handles open worlds, and not holding your hand so much and not having all these markers everywhere. Let you be the one who puts the markers and find the interesting things.
Yeah.
And and I think From Software is just maybe the most talented team in the world, man. Like they just know how to make something that their fans will devour.
Yeah.
Like they have some secret sauce. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I wish I loved their gameplay loop, because as you mentioned, just being like thrown into a world similar to like a Skyrim, and just finding things, and the stories that just generate themselves, that they're not just given to you like cookie crumb like most games are, like God of War Ragnarok, that that leads the player into the exciting stuff.
Right.
Where Elden Ring is the players discover the exciting stuff. And listening to Jason Schreier talk about his best games, and his favorite game of the year was Elden Ring, and for that very reason, like the story he told was just a story that just randomly generated in Elden Ring. Like
Everything's organic.
Yeah, it's not something that was scripted. It's not something that happens to every player, but it's his story. It occurred in the game, and it's always amazing that developers can at least put you in the space where that can potentially happen.
Mm-hmm.
There's something to be said about all that.
Yeah, you know the game pretty well for somebody who won't play it.
I just can't.
I know, man. I
know. It's not my thing. All right. Well, yeah, you know what my final two games are.
Cyberpunk and God of War. What do we got?
Oh yeah. What's my number 2? It's God of War Ragnarok.
You piece of shit.
We've talked about God of War Ragnarok enough, and I'll let John as it's his final game, and to really kind of put the cap on it. But just a great game, and again, it's going to beat Elden Ring for John currently, but it was in the conversation with Elden Ring. Like that's incredible, and just for Sony Santa Monica to raise the level on a very high bar, that even when we were talking about what we think this is going to review, we didn't think they could do it. We thought this game was going to review slightly lower, and I think it's probably maybe 1 point lower. I think it's a 93 to 94.
I think it's 93 to 95.
Oh,
but
okay.
So,
but it's incredible. A great story, a great ending, and great boss fights, as we talked about. There's nothing. They did everything right.
Yeah.
New enemies, new everything. It's just, I just.
Do you think it's a little bloated? I know a lot of people think maybe it's a little bloated.
There are a few zones that I didn't like. Vanaheim, you suck.
Yeah, I agree. Vanaheim can get fucked. Everywhere else is fine. It was just too windy. There was too many dead ends / like ways to get places.
And it's funny that we take, because we're completionists, so we wanted that platinum. Like, I'm sure if a normal person plays the game, they're probably not going to say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, just an overall just great game, and yeah, I'll stop talking because I know. Let's hear it, John.
Yeah. So, like I said, man, I as I was playing through like the first half of this game, I did have that sense of that a lot of people have, where it's like, okay, this is good, but it is kind of more of the same. Even down to like the first time you see Thor, and it's like, okay, I'm having another huge fight out of my house, right? Like you do with Baldur. But one thing I'm learning about myself while doing this podcast is that I contradict myself quite often, right? And I've said many, many times on this show that I'm a gameplay guy and that narrative doesn't really matter to me. But after I've platinumed this game and I've sat with it and I've seen the big moments that they had, I've kind of realized that the way to elevate yourself, at least with me, beyond just like something I really like to something that I truly love and can't stop thinking about, is you need to tackle something that I don't care about, but elevate it to a point where all of a sudden it's something I cherish or love. And the narrative is that in God of War, similarly to the Into the Breach, right? I think Into the Breach I like so much because I went into it thinking I'm going to hate it, and I ended up loving it because it introduced something new to me. And for God of War, the journey that you go on with Kratos and Atreus, and again, I'm a dad of a 5-year-old son, so I see a lot of parallels there. It spoke to me in a way that I wasn't expecting. Hopefully spoilers don't need to be said anymore, but one of the last lines in the game between Atreus and Kratos is just, I still think about it today, where Atreus is ready to go off on his own. He's proved to his dad that he is ready, and you can see it in Kratos' face that he finally is going to accept it, and he says, the line, Loki can go, but Atreus stays right here, and he like hits his heart. And it's just like, it's such beautiful writing to me. And so when you combine this narrative, and it's not just Kratos and Atreus, it's the relationship of Odin and Atreus, it's Sindri with everybody, there's so many different tight, well-constructed, intimate narratives that are woven throughout this whole story, that when you can combine that with the gameplay that it has, the combat that it has, which when you get into a flow, there are some fights where it's like, I don't feel right now, something isn't hitting. But then there's some fights where you're doing everything perfectly, your meters are recharged at the right time, you're doing everything the way you want to, and graphically and all that other stuff. It's so good. And Elden Ring might get there. As much as I love the Souls series, I know some people love the lore and the stories that you can get by reading that stuff. I've never really gotten into that. Maybe if I really put the effort in with Elden Ring, like I can get that narrative side of it too. But I just think that if I'm really bearing down and thinking about me as a gamer and what I like, and not letting other people or other feelings or thoughts affect it, it's hard for me not to choose Ragnarok above Elden Ring. I mean, I put down Elden Ring, right? I didn't really want to, but I did, and I'm back into it now. We'll have more to say in a couple of weeks, and I'm loving it. I just feel like Ragnarok, putting a bow on that story, Sony Santa Monica somehow, much like Naughty Dog did with The Last of Us 2 for me, they somehow improved upon what they did, and I'm already excited to play that game with my son when he's old enough. I think
that might be rough.
Yeah, we'll see.
Dad, why are you crying?
I love you so much. Don't ever leave. What do you mean? I'm in college. Oh god. So, yeah, man, I gotta, I guess so. What? 5 of my 6 awards went to Ragnarok.
Yeah.
But what can you say when you love something that much? It's that good. I
mean, that was the Game Awards too. It was like Ragnarok and Elden Ring just back and forth. So.
All right, let's hear why Cyberpunk's better than God of War. Somebody who hates first-person shooters.
Yes, I did have that thought that both my best indie game and game of the year were both first-person games, which is, again, as I've said before, I love being surprised. Not that I was going to be surprised by Cyberpunk 2077, but granted, 2 years ago, being very disappointed that I was going to have to put it down because it was unplayable, or just in a state where I didn't want to play it. and just having to wait and wait and wait until this year when it was finally ready, and then getting thrown into that game, spending over 100 hours into it, finishing it, getting the platinum, and still wanting to play more. It's still installed on my PlayStation. You know, Cyberpunk just throws you into the gutter of Night City, and you just get lost and immersed in its giant skyscrapers, its vast deserts, and it's complemented by one of the most amazing cast: Goro, Judy, Johnny, Dum Dum, Jackie, Pan Am, Delamain, and there's just so many great characters. They're so well acted that it's just, you get lost, and every new side quest is an introduction to another great character that you care about, and the story will go in unexpected places. I did want to highlight my favorite quest in the game called Dream On. It's just a side quest that really goes into some crazy shit. I won't spoil it here. It's just that good of a twist.
Yeah, please don't.
But yeah, when you meet the Jeffersons, you'll definitely see them through their quests. So.
Mr. Jefferson from South Park?
No. They're a power couple, and the husband is running for mayor of Night City.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that.
Oh,
but,
love power couples.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's so good, and just tons of stories. Tons of just, again, kind of like Elden Ring, just kind of just things that happen in the world that you come across that you're just going to remember forever. And just, the game's good. And it's all in first person. Like, the immersion level of that game is just on another level because of how well the world is realized, the music, how your character interacts with that world. You're just not like a floating camera like in Fallout or Skyrim or looks like Starfield. You're a person that emos. You look down, you see your body. You can look at your hands, and when you're sitting down, you put your hands on the table. Stuff, just the light little touches that really get you in that world. And yeah, John, I want you to play.
I know. As we'll discuss, folks, like I'm trying to get back into Elden Ring now, but like I have been kind of like looking for that next thing, and I installed Cyberpunk again because I know Nick loves it, so I didn't realize he liked it more than Ragnarok, but that's fine, of course. And so, yeah, I want to get back into it. Do you think any of your reason for choosing it over Ragnarok is by just the design of the game and just being a truly open world that you can explore as opposed to kind of being more refined, or is it really just the writing and characters that you feel are so much better than Ragnarok? Or not so much better, but a little bit better.
Right. I think there's more surprises to be had. Not that there weren't surprises in God of War, but I think, just again, similar to like you said, Elden Ring is like just getting lost in that world and having the freedom to tackle it how you choose is definitely a plus, Yeah. And yeah, just all the sights, and it's like, again, it's just getting lost in another world like that, like just what a futuristic city might be like. It's a little too horny than I think the real world will be like in 2077, but
a little too horny.
But yeah, just an overall just great experience and with great writing, and yeah, not to say God of War Ragnarok isn't incredible. No,
of course. None of this is.
I can wake up tomorrow and probably feel differently about God of War Ragnarok and say it's better than Cyberpunk 2077. But
no, I mean that's what makes a good Game of the Year discussion, man. Is you want to have something where you're trying to figure it out, not just like, it's like, I don't know, what was last year? Well, last year was even a weird year because it was like It Takes Two and other stuff. Yeah, but every once in a while you'll get a year where it's like, obviously it's this thing, and so yeah, you want a little bit of conflict because that means you're eating good this year.
Yeah. When a couple Titans come out in the same year,
Yeah.
Well, Cyberpunk didn't come out this year, but
no, that's fair. For us, it did.
Yeah. All right. So that's that. That is our winners for all of our categories. If you want to share yours, go right ahead. We'll read them next week at the start of the show. What a year.
It was, it was better. I've heard have you heard a lot of like conversation from the games media that's like said this year was really bad?
That would be insane to me.
Okay, that's Colin Moriarty being very bitter because he doesn't like God of War that much. Therefore, and he doesn't, and he's not a Souls guy. So like, if you don't like those two things, I guess I could see that. But no, I mean, I think next year is going to be another year of Titans with Final Fantasy 16, Zelda. Obviously, we won't talk about that too much on here, being that this is PlayStation. But I'm sure I'll be playing it, so I'm sure I'll have to say something, at least a little bit, just on how it is. But yeah, I mean, I guess that figures Cyberpunk. For those who don't know, The Witcher 3 is one of Nick's favorite games of all time. Nick, can I share your ID or no? Your PSN ID?
Yeah. Okay.
It's Geralt of something, and so it makes sense. He likes CD Projekt Red, and well deserved. And I'm happy for you, because it would have been such a bummer if they never fixed that game into a point where you could get through it nice, and then that's so much hidden. But
yeah.
All right, folks, we did it.
We did it.
That's a year. And kind of half a year.
And as John mentioned, next podcast we will be talking, as we just wrapped up 2022. Now we're going to look into 2023, and we're going to break it down. We're going to go through our most anticipated. We're going to have predictions. PlayStation VR is coming out next year, and we don't really want to flame the console wars, but every other publisher next year, Zelda, Starfield, Redfall, Spider-Man 2, like, it's going to be, Game of the Year next year is going to be a bloodbath if all these games come out. Yeah. Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. Diablo 4.
Hollow Knight.
Yeah. Silksong, where are you?
Maybe Hades 2.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, it's just going to be in DLC, Cyberpunk, Phantom Liberty, Burning Shores for Horizon. It's just going to be nonstop. And again,
Resident Evil 4.
We don't even know. Like, Sony's keeping it so close to the vest. Like, we don't know what else is coming out this year.
I would say historically, Sony likes to have 2 or 3, mostly 3 first-party releases in a year. Mm-hmm. We only know about Spider-Man. They could be using Final Fantasy 16 as a fill-in, and they have VR releasing. So
VR is going to disrupt, I think, that normal cadence.
Right. So I would expect 2. I would expect Spider-Man and something else to come out at a minimum. Well, and then factions might show up. So
yeah,
we'll see. But
and as I mentioned at the start of the show, maybe we should bring back the DEF CON level, because there has to be something before. There has to be either
VR,
a state of play, a showcase for PSVR, like the big blowout. Half-Life Alyx, where are you? you know. Yep. So they gotta get it's Horizon Call of the Mountain. Yeah, okay. But they really need that showstopper, and I think saying Half-Life Alyx will be there at launch would be huge.
That's the one. And we don't know what Asobi's doing. Like, they could have a thing where they say, hey, we are doing it. It's just not going to be ready for launch.
Yeah,
we'll have it
out
in the summer, fall.
Yeah. But so that'll be the entire show. We might dish the format again next week, and then after that we'll start getting into all those games we've been playing. Inscription, what happened to me and Neon White. More Elden Ring. I want to hear more Elden Ring. I want John to tell us a story of something that happened to him in Elden Ring.
Just so the audience knows where I'm at, I just beat Margit. I am in Stormvale Castle, making my way to my nominee for best boss fight of the year with Godric, who I already did beat. I did beat him in my last playthrough, so I do know of him. I have to restart things. That's how I operate.
It's coming, John. 2 weeks we'll be watching HBO's The Last of Us.
Yeah.
So,
oh my God. Yeah.
2023, man.
Yeah. Off to a start.
Yeah. So, John, what song are we leaving them on?
We're taking it back to a 2019 Game of the Year contender of Control, and this is obviously the best part of the game, the Ashtray Maze. So from the Old Gods of Asgard, the song is called Take Control. It's 8 minutes long.
John likes the long ones.
Yeah, well, I didn't think it was going to be that long. I guess it just had to be for the Ashtray Maze portion. But, it's a banger. It's kind of heavy metal-esque. And the fact that they yell, take control in the beginning of the song is ridiculous. And so, yeah, enjoy.
Cool. All right. And then finally, I do want to thank everyone who listened to us in 2022. We didn't know if we wanted to do a podcast. I'm very happy with how it's turning out, and we hope to make it even better next year. So all of us who stuck with us for all of our audio issues, all the different things that had happened as we tried to learn how to record a podcast, we appreciate and we love you all.
And absolutely everything Nick said. I will add one thing, like, for the marks out there, anybody else, like, it really would help if you know a friend or two, a family member, somebody that you think might enjoy our content, it's, it just would be nice to get a couple extra ears, keep this thing going. And, we have some ideas for future content that would be fun, but like really not possible without some fan or, audience participation. So if there's anybody or, work, if you have a bulletin board, whatever the case, we would appreciate any of that kind of stuff. And but if not, if you just want to keep coming back and listening to us, we like that too. So,
yeah, of course.
There we go.
All right. So happy 2022. We will see you next year in 2023. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Take control.